In this video, I'm going to discuss editing an existing ZZT world. Before I get to that, I want to mention that boards that have been locked or super locked to thwart editing in the original application may need to have modifications made so that they can be editable and playable in this application. When that occurs, the user will be notified when the file is opened that modifications were made to it. To show an example of that, I'm going to open the town of ZZT. When I load the town of ZZT, before it opens fully, a dialog box is displayed to the user to let them know that modifications were made so that the ZZT world could be edited in this application. I would advise users who are opening their legacy ZZT boards that have been locked or super locked to look at the information in this window to ensure that nothing extra is being modified or removed from the board or world so that it can be loaded in this application. If you see something that looks out of the ordinary, let me know and I'll try to address it. Once you've reviewed this information, just dismiss the dialog box and you can continue with playing or editing the world. So in this demonstration, I'm going to make some modifications to the armory from the town of ZZT. To begin making my modifications, I'm going to select the palette icon from the toolbar, and this will open the ZZT palette. This should look somewhat familiar to users of the original application. Near the top of the palette, you'll see the currently selected ZZT item, its current forecolor and back color, and the common colors from the original application. These are the colors available to the user primarily in the original application. Users can select these to cycle through those common colors. Users also have the option of positioning the mouse over the forecolor or back color and clicking the left mouse button or using the scroll wheel to cycle through the available ANSI colors. The button in between the back color and forecolor just swaps the background and the foreground. Below the colors are the ZZT items, ammo, torches, and so on, and all of the items available for building the ZZT board. When the user selects one of these items, it appears as selected, and when they move their mouse over the graphics window, a preview of that item is displayed under the mouse. To add a ZZT item to the board, just left-click the mouse. To remove it, right-click the mouse. And it's as simple as that. You'll notice that when I clicked on the palette icon, additional buttons were added to the toolbar. The first is the mode of the mouse when in the graphics window. The D stands for drawing. In drawing mode, the left button, as I discussed, adds an item to the board. The right button deletes it. The F is fill. Fill is used to fill space in the ZZT board. If I select fill and click, the space will be filled with the currently selected item. The P stands for paint. Now, paint is something new I added and allows the user to just change the color of an item on the board. So for example, I am in paint mode and the current forecolor is green and the back color is black. If I move the mouse over any item in the board, we'll just use the vendor building here for example, and I left click the mouse, I'm just painting the existing elements, changing their color. I could also position it over an object for example and change its color. We'll switch back to drawing mode. You also notice two eyedropper icons in the toolbar. The first is used to select an existing item from the ZZT board and add it as the selected item and change the color to its color. For example, if I select the palette, the first eyedropper, you'll notice the character under the mouse changes to an asterisk. For this example, I'm going to place it over the white object. When I click the mouse, you'll notice that object becomes the selected item. You'll notice he's now previewed under my mouse, and the forecolor and back color changes to the forecolor and back color of that object. I can then add this object to the board in different locations. Now this operation does not copy its OOP code, but that can be easily copy and pasted from one object to another. The second eyedropper here just copies the color. For example, the currently selected item is ammo. If I select the second eyedropper, you'll notice the asterisk appears under the mouse. If I select this red boulder, you'll notice that the forecolor has changed to red, the back color to black, which is the forecolor and back color of this object, but the selected object has not changed. Past the palette are configuration options specific to the selected object. Some objects have these configuration options and some don't. Ammunition, for example, has the default color option. This will set the color of the ammunition to its default color. The same is true for torches. Gems, of course, don't have a default color. More complicated objects, bears for example, have their drop-down for sensitivity and also their default color. We'll go to something more complicated like a tiger, which has its drop-down for intelligence, fire rate, and fire type. If the user doesn't configure these, some arbitrary defaults are chosen. For items like scrolls and torches where text needs to be entered, the user, once they're added to the board, so we'll go to scrolls for example, I'll change its default color back to the scroll default. I'll add the scroll to the board. If I position the mouse over the scroll I added and hit the middle mouse button, the Edit Scroll Text dialog appears, and I can type in the text for that scroll. Use the right mouse button to remove. Objects have a special button in the toolbar to allow you to change the current ANSI character that will represent that object. So when I select that button, a dialog appears that contains the ANSI character set. The user can choose one of these items. We'll choose the heart, for example, and they can be placed into the board. Once the object is added to the board, if the user positions the mouse over it and hits the middle mouse button, the Edit Object dialog will appear, and OOP code can be entered. If I position my mouse over an existing object and hit the middle mouse button, the same dialog appears, populated with the OOP code for that object. Remove those there. It may also be useful when editing a board to play through it to make sure that it's working correctly. The user goes to the Editor button in the menu and chooses Play Board. The board becomes active. The palette disappears and is replaced with the player's information panel, and the user can now move around the board and interact with the objects. To help with testing, in the Play Board menu, there's an option called Debug Boost, which gives the player all the keys and a bunch of other items to help with testing. When you're done testing the board, Play Board options stop. We'll return the board to its original state and resume edit mode. And that is a brief overview of editing ZZT boards in this application.